Hey, folks, welcome back. My name's Matt Major. I am very excited to talk with Marie about, in our previous conversations, we talked about two of your four uh, entrepreneurial endeavors. We got a couple more to talk about, though.
hmm
And this one is pretty neat. This is something that we've touched on a number of times in our conversation so far. But I want to talk about your wholesale brand. So, if you wouldn't mind, let's go ahead and introduce it and then tell me what is the vision behind this division of your business.
Yeah. So the wholesale bridal division is called Adornato Couture is the brand. And about 8 years ago or so, I made the decision that I was going to pursue designing my own collection, primarily out of necessity because I was kind of sick of the big brands bullying me
I
into
see.
big minimums and not having the availability for customization for my customers. We were doing a lot of in-house alterations that were on a style level rather than just a quick
I
alteration,
see.
which, you know, allowed me to really identify an area in the industry where we were lacking. It was a true pain point for the bride,
Wow.
which then became a pain point for my retail store because now my seamstresses were becoming responsible for redesigning a dress that a big manufacturer had sold us rather than just being able to alter it.
Yeah.
So this was really the reason why I kind of got into that. And it's evolved into a wonderful brand. And I've been able to really develop meaningful relationships with retailers worldwide. We did launch a ready to wear collection as well in Paris. We did Paris Fashion Week
Wow.
at a store called Flying Solo. The collection was launched. And, we did start now just doing prom dresses as well. This season, we tested it out. So we're kind of putting together our prom collection for next season for 2026. On the bridal side, we now have three different divisions. So we'll have the regular Adornato Couture division, which is, the European inspired styling and it's affordable luxury. So it's the Instagrammable dress that you see
Okay.
that might sell for maybe $10,000 by another designer that we're able to produce at an affordable price for our brides.
Wow.
And we can also customize every aspect of that dress. So every pattern is made to the measurement of the bride. So if the bride tries on a style
Wow.
and decides that she wants to change the neckline or change the fabric, we do that, but we also do her custom measurements. So when the dress comes in, the brides love it because she's not spending the $1,000 alteration bill to alter it to fit her properly. So that's our main collection. And now we're also designing a mini collection as well for micro weddings or many brides. Nowadays, the trend is your entire wedding weekend, you have to have a wardrobe for it.
Hmm.
So they're not just buying one wedding dress, they're buying two wedding dresses, one for the ceremony, one for the reception,
Oh, wow.
buying another one for the after reception party, and then the post wedding, which would be like a brunch the next day, a little white dress for that. The rehearsal the night before, a little white dress for that, and then a little white dress for her bridal shower. So we have a complete wardrobe
Wow.
that brides are now purchasing, especially in bigger cities. And so we are going to be catering to that.
Is that going to be sort of a matching set of all those pieces that sort of go together or?
That's really a good idea. Thank you for giving me that.
Sure.
But some of the gowns will have like a fitted bridal gown and then a big skirt over
I
it
see.
so she can have two dresses. But that would be a really unique idea to design something where she can get the biggest bang for her buck and not have to buy five dresses and, buy one or
Sure.
two.
Sure.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's pretty neat. And just to take a step back a little bit, so we started talking about, filling the need in your shop,
Mhm.
but that's not all that this brand does, right?
Right.
And you touched on you now sell these designs in other people's shops.
Right. So we show the collection at the National Bridal Market in Chicago twice a year. So that market is an industry show. So brides don't go there. It's stores They come from all over the world. It's one of the largest bridal shows in the world. And this is the place where all of the designers come. Brides, like I say, brides don't come, the retailers come. And so store owners are able to kind of shop all of the bridal designers to see who is the best fit for their store. So this is the opportunity for us to meet stores, and we call them retailers, from across the country and all over the world, and develop relationships with them. And then they'll place an order on certain styles that they like, and then they'll bring that into their stores for their brides to try on.
And then do you customize things for their brides?
Absolutely.
As well? So,
yes.
okay.
So not only will we customize for their brides, we will also do private label brands for the stores.
Oh, wow.
So in the event that, the store is looking to get a little bit higher margin, problem with larger manufacturers that are advertised, when you have a highly advertised brand, it's very difficult to get the margin that you need in order to be able to pay your fixed costs. So,
Gotcha.
When you have that basic equation for the contribution margin, you're only considering your variable cost, which is the cost of the dress. Well, you might have a considerably nice contribution margin, but bridal stores in general, we're a high leveraged type of a business where we have high fixed costs, whether it's a mortgage for the building or a rent. There's a lot of things that are fixed every single month. So a lot of the stores don't realize that they might be getting a nice contribution margin on a specific designer, but they have to actually get even more than what they think they're getting because they now have to pay all the fixed costs out of that contribution margin. So that's something that becomes really important when you're looking at the financial aspect of running a retail business. Also, the tariff situation has become a real concern, okay? Not just for the stores, but for us manufacturing the dresses. And that's another area where I share with the stores the same thing. When you are in a situation where you're selling a dress that's private label and you can get a little bit more margin on the dress, this allows you to now be able to pay those fixed costs much easier.
Sure.
So, and it allows your bride to have a much more customized, personalized experience where she's not going to see her dress advertised all over the internet.
Yeah.
And, I think most of us would say we like to feel special about, what we're purchasing and what we're spending, a sizable amount on. I mean, it's really one of the only dresses in your lifetime that you're going to spend that type of money on. And on average, it's about $2,500 is about average for a bridal dress nationwide. So, this is what I share with the stores, and we try to help them. Now, we're not there to just sell them the line so that they can share it with their brides. We want to build these meaningful relationships, and you're not going to do that unless you're helping them on a business analytics side where you're helping them figure out, okay, how can I make the best use of my time, get the most margin to be able to pay not just my variable costs, but my fixed costs.
I think that's really neat. In a little while, we're going to talk about one of your other things, which is being an educator. But it sounds like a lot of that role even takes place with your customers here. You're not, like you said, you're not just selling them a dress, but you're really kind of helping them with the business aspect of running a shop like this.
Well, I think what's important to remember as an entrepreneur, our job is to solve problems.
Sure.
Our job is to identify where pain points exist in our industries and come up with solutions to those problems.
Yeah.
And so that's what I look for every day. I'm a problem solver. People will say, well, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. I'm like, no, I'm actually a problem solver. And that's exactly what, we try to do every day is say, okay, whether it's a big problem or a little problem, what can we do to solve that problem and to make things more efficient and to help our customers? Because at the end of the day, that's only going to strengthen the relationship and it's only going to strengthen the financial security of their business, which will secure the financial stability of mine.
I love that philosophy. I think you're absolutely on the right track. I did want to mention something. You mentioned, there's dresses that you're not going to necessarily see on the internet, but you might find dresses in a video game, right?
Yes.
So this, I think, is one of the cooler, I'm going to say underrated aspects of all the different things you do. And maybe that's just because I'm a nerd. But My daughters love playing the game where they can actually take your designs and dress them up, right?
Yes. So that's Covet Fashion is a division of EA Games, which is, I think, the largest
Yeah.
gaming company in the world. And I have to give credit to my PR agent that's in LA. It's a company called Wear the Future. Her name is Annabelle Azadeh. And she actually connected me with Covet Fashion Game. And so last year we were able to launch our Adornato Couture collection to be available on Covet Fashion Game. And it's been a really wonderful collaboration. And we've had 3 seasons now where, we share the designs with Covet Fashion. And even wedding dresses, they take those designs and they create like an avatar so that the gamers can use the dresses to dress themselves.
Your character in the game can wear
Yes.
Marie's design.
It's amazing.
I don't know. I just think that's so neat. What do you feel is the biggest difference? We're jumping around a little bit, but what do you feel like is the biggest difference between running this wholesale brand where you're selling to the stores versus the everyday retail shop where you're selling to brides and participants?
It is a vast difference. And I'll be honest with you. I think one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my career is sell my Adornato Couture bridal brand to retail bridal stores. You would think that it would be super easy,
Sure.
right? You would think all of these features of our collection that we offer that brides want. We know brides want it because we do the primary research.
Right.
And we design the collection in a way that is marketable to a large target market of brides. So, but there are a lot of considerations for a store when picking up a brand. I mean, first of all, you've got large manufacturers that are really occupying their open to buy dollars. So what'll happen is, a large manufacturer will come in and say, you have to buy a minimum of 12 pieces per season, and they usually cut 2 seasons a year. Well, that's a sizable investment for a small bridal store, especially if it's a single operator store that has maybe 2 or 3 dressing rooms and it's a small physical space. The larger ball gowns take up space.
Sure.
So what happens is that's no room for smaller manufacturers like me to come in and say, hey, we can do this custom collection for your customer and, we'll develop it within your store. There's just simply no room for us sometimes. And so by the time they're able to push out the larger manufacturer and move out product to make room for me, financial room and physical room, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge.
So it's almost like, on Shark Tank, you hear about these folks that want to get a product into a grocery store and they talk about shelf space, right?
Yep.
You kind of, in your business, rack space, but it's literally just a physical limitation.
Yes, the product we sell, unfortunately, jewelry, you can fit a lot in a small space. This is the nature of our product is it's sizable.
Sure.
And it's something that you really need to see it, touch it, feel it, try it on. And so it does take up a little bit more space.
Let me ask you this. Could a shop work with you exclusively? Do you have a big enough collection, I guess I would say, to if they did nothing but sold yours, would they cover all their bases?
Absolutely. And that is a business strategy that is actually recommended in our industry. I've made the mistake, years ago, having too many manufacturers.
I see.
Buying too much inventory, mucking up the racks, and, dresses were getting missed. Awesome dresses were getting missed because they were just getting stuck between. There was just too much. And I think when you overbuy, that becomes a problem. When you focus on 1 or 2 or 3 manufacturers, I would say 3 max, you can now really work with the brand on business development. And you can work on with a brand to design something special for your store. So that's what we try to do. We try to kind of really develop not just our brand in their store, but develop the store's brand as well.
That's awesome. That's really neat. You're the designer of these items. and folks can get directly to you. You know, you're like you talk about, you're the one that goes to these shows, and you're the one in many cases might even answer the phone.
Yes.
How many of your, I guess I'd say, competitors in this industry, how many other designers are that accessible? Or, you know, for all these other companies, do they also get to meet the designer at the show, or is it a matter of a sales rep who's the person they deal with?
Well, I will tell you, for my company, our rule is there are no rules. So you'll see me packing my own boxes at market. You'll see me talking to customers. You'll see me, jumping in and having conversations, mainly because I love people and because every conversation that I engage in, I know that there's always a golden nugget that I can learn. Okay. And to be present with my business, with my customer, with my employees. The larger manufacturers in this industry, you typically would never meet the designer, especially unless they're doing like a designer attended trunk show where the retail store flies the designer in to work with brides.
Special event.
Yes. Typically, you don't see that. I try to make myself as accessible as I can be, not only to be visible, to brides, but also make sure I'm accessible to the stores and their staff. So on a Saturday, if they have a bride in one of my dresses and there's a question about a change that's like an unorthodox type of request, they can FaceTime with me wherever I am in the world, or the sales rep. Typically, the sales reps will be the people that communicate more. I am a type A individual, as you can tell. I'm very engaged in my business. My name is on it. And I'm very focused on making sure that any questions are handled. People are treated with respect. I've been in situations as a retailer myself. I've maybe worked with a company for 20 years and I've never met the owners, or the owners have never reached out to me, or the sales reps, they go through them so much. I don't even know who the most recent
person is.
And so, I encourage stores to really evaluate your relationships with your vendors, because one of the things that can hurt your business is to not have the relationship that is a mutually beneficial relationship. Any relationship in life needs to work for both parties. Mm-hmm. And if it's a one-sided situation, like many times it is in my industry, because many of the larger manufacturers can tend to have bully-like behavior. And I think what happens is with the store owners, they feel trapped. Sure. They feel like, I can't say no to this manufacturer or they're going to sell to the store down the street. Or, I have so much invested on my racks with this manufacturer that I can't not carry them anymore, or they're going to cut me off and I can't do any special orders off the samples that I have. So that fear is many times how the bigger manufacturers are selling to the retail stores. The retail stores needs to stop. And, a long time ago, a really special sales rep said to me, Marie, who's running your business? You, your manufacturers, or your customers? And that one question changed the trajectory of how I handled my business from that point forward, because every business is different. No two retail stores are going to be the same in how they service the customer. Mm-hmm. And it's really important that stores have the freedom. You need to have the freedom to service your customers, manage your staff, and be able to sell the product, whatever product that is, the way that you want to sell it.
Sure. That's what makes it your business, right?
Exactly.
That's incredible, Marie. This, hearing about all these different aspects of your businesses, from the retail shop to the wholesale side of it and everything that's involved in that, it's just crazy. And I don't know when you sleep. But we've got one other thing to talk about. And before we do, I don't know if we want to take a break and get a cup of coffee or not, but
yeah.
In a minute, I want to hear about this other piece where you're up at the Syracuse University teaching young people, or as we talked about previously, maybe even learning from some young people. So let's get into that next. All right, so welcome back to the Bridal Blueprint. Marie, I got to hear about this, your night job, I guess we can call it. You are a professor at Syracuse University, on
Yes.
top of running these things in wholesale and resale, retail businesses, things of that nature. How did you get into this to begin with?
It's great. And so I'm an adjunct, and hopefully I'll be going full time at some point. But you know, it's interesting because as the owner of the bridal store, how do you go up? In a corporate job, you can kind of work your way up,
Sure.
right? How do you get to the next level? But when you're already there and you're running the place, and it's a little different situation, how do you extend your career?
Yeah.
And so that was the question for me. I was at a point it was right when COVID was starting, that my kids were getting a little older. They didn't need me as much, and I felt like I wasn't as educated with the current technology, and there were things that were happening around me that I felt like I was living in this bridal bubble in my own place, because I would be spending 10 hours a day there and working customers and doing what I needed to do for that, but I wasn't able to experience what was happening, like technologically, for
Sure.
example, in the outside world. So I said, on my bucket list, I always had, education. I always loved school, and I had education as being one of the things that I would like to teach, and but I didn't know exactly like what that entailed. I didn't know anything about it. And my brother, was a professor. He still is a professor, but he's also one of the deans at Newhouse at SU. He was, that was his career route after being on the news for so long. And I was like, this seems like something that might appeal to me. So I took a look at some ads that were jobs that were available,
Sure.
like at SU. And I was like, maybe this entrepreneurship one sounds interesting. Maybe I should apply for it. And so I did. And then I got the interview, and we literally interviewed like the week before the shutdown with COVID.
Oh, wow.
So unfortunately, there was a hiring freeze during that time.
Yep.
But I contacted the professor who had interviewed me, and I said, hey, I'm willing to work for free. Will you teach me? Will you show me the ropes on what do you look for? How do I do this? Like, what are current students like?
Yeah.
So what he did was he started having me kind of participate a little bit here and there, judging competitions, coming in to present to the classes, helping him grade one semester. And once, the shutdown was over, then things were rolling again, and they hired me as an adjunct to teach the capstone course for the seniors. And I was excited about that because it's a competition, and I'm
Okay.
a very competitive individual. And so it gave me something to look forward to and to work on as a project. And I really enjoyed it. And the students wound up liking me, I guess.
Mhm.
So they kept me on a second semester. And now I'm 3 years later, and I have 2 capstone courses. I've also taught the intro class. I've taught women and minorities in entrepreneurship. And I recently was just handed over the Daniello Entrepreneurship Internship Program,
Wow.
where our business students are able to get 3 credits working at a local company as an intern. And they're actually paid partly by the company and partly sponsored by the Daniello internship program. So it's been a really great experience for me because the resources available at the university just blow my mind. I mean, any student that goes to school there is really blessed because the business librarian, Stephanie Reynolds, is probably one of the most amazing people, not only as a person, but she's just so intelligent and has so much knowledge about how to access information that you need about customers, about competitors, anything to do with projects.
Wow.
So I've really been able to meet some amazing people. I've learned so much, and not just from the faculty, but from the students.
That's incredible. And you mentioned a couple times that what you're teaching is entrepreneurship,
Yes.
which is interesting to me because to some degree I'm of the mindset that, entrepreneurs are kind of, it's not everybody, right?
Right.
You got to be of that mindset, but of course there's a lot to learn. So what I'm getting at is, how do you teach entrepreneurship?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because the other aspect to entrepreneurship is we think of it as business owners, right? We think of it as people who are solving problems by creating products and services that do that. But also, I share with my students, not all of these students are going into their own businesses after college. Okay. So many of them are going into Fortune 500 companies or smaller companies that are looking to scale. The entrepreneurial mindset is about solving problems. So even if you're working for someone else, you're still an entrepreneur. If you within that organization are solving problems that will help the organization and help their customers.
Gotcha.
So, that's something that I communicate very clearly. Now, in the confines of a academic environment, especially in the class that I teach, which is capstone. So the purpose is the students develop a business, they identify a problem, and then they create a product or service that solves that problem. They have to identify their size, who their market is, the size of the market, who their competitors are. They do extensive primary research. So they have to, because they're startups, they have to make sure that that level of research is so deep that they can support the projected numbers on those financials, because at the end of the semester, the judges serve as investors. So they're pitching to those investors, whether it be an angel investor or a venture capital investor.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
You said you've done this a couple years now?
This is my third year.
So out of those, I'm very interested to know, what's one or two of the most memorable projects from this?
Honestly, there's been some really amazing ideas. And I've been really fortunate where our second semester, we had one group that created, it was like a healthy gummy. It provided nutrient, some sort of a specific nutrient or something.
Gotcha.
They actually created a prototype of the product.
Wow.
And they wound up in the top 5. Then the following year, which was my second year, I had in the same semester, I had one that won capstone. We identified through our generational research that Gen Z was in the middle of a mental health crisis. And because of the size of that market, the group really dug deep to see where the pain point was in having access to mental health care.
I see.
And so they created a group therapy business, which you don't see in therapy. It's usually one-on-one.
Right.
And, companies like BetterHelp were just kind of starting to jump on that group bandwagon. But they created this amazing company and service that it won the judges over. And, I think one of the biggest reasons why they won were they were able to identify a very large, sizable market, a relatable problem that relates to that sizable market. And then the services that they created were so personalized and specialized that, it was something that they were able to get through the primary research, a high adoption rate for people who said that they would use the service.
Wow. That's pretty neat. It's sort of like a real life Shark Tank where
it is
going through these different ideas.
And that same semester, I had another group in the finals. They came in third. It was called Ski Safe, and it was a device that's worn on the wrists of skiers in like major ski areas where like slopes are very deep and they're in the density of the woods, and to be able to track not just where the skier is, but their vitals as well. And so that was a really great one. And then we also had pickleball is really popular, which is one of the fastest growing sports in the country. And so last spring, because I didn't teach capstone in the fall, I taught 3 other classes, but that group came in third, and they did really well too.
How many folks are in one of these groups?
It's anywhere from 4 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And usually I'll have, like this semester, I've got 8 groups in one class and I have 7 groups in another.
Wow.
So we've got 15 groups that we're working right now. We have capstone in 3 weeks.
That's incredible.
So yeah, I put on the Rocky music as they're coming in. After the midterm is over, it's capstone time and we're getting ready for competition. So I mobilize everyone, and it's like I'm the head of an army,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way that we treat the classroom, and the students enjoy it. They love that I bring a lot of real world experience into the classroom, but also, people like you that I've met through, Profound Mastermind Group and other groups that are able to kind of serve as the advisory board members. The students love that. They love meeting real entrepreneurs.
Yeah. That's so neat. Do any of these go beyond the classroom? Are they always just a project, or does anybody actually kind of take that business plan and try to execute it?
Well, with Syracuse University and the Whitman School of Management in particular being one of the top business schools in the country, we have seen some amazing products and businesses come out of that school that it still exists today. So I know there was a special water company that got bought out by one of the big
Oh, wow.
industry leaders. There's a lot of ideas that wind up taking off and either are still owned by alum from SU, or they've been sold,
Sure.
for multiples of value.
It sounds like all this work that these young people are putting together could yield some really fruitful business.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty cool. Excited about that. Um, what, where do you see yourself going sort of as a professor down the road? Is it more of the same types of classes? Or I know you mentioned previously that you were love to one day do even more of it.
I enjoy it. The thing is, what's great, I'm known as the nighttime professor because what's great about it is I'm able to offer nighttime opportunities for students who maybe work during the day or have other classes that they need to take. And so the nighttime becomes, it's not favorable to the faculty that's full-time already because they're already working all day.
Yep.
So for me, it allows me to work my businesses during the day. And then in the evening, it's really my fun time. It's that we do the once a week. So it's a 4-hour class.
Wow.
So I have 2 sections, but I would love to do full time. I'm used to my lifestyle is that in which, I work every day. I technically work every day,
Sure.
but I don't really consider it work because it's a lifestyle for me.
Things
And
you
it's
like doing.
exactly. And, it's not the same monotony every day for me.
I hear you. Last question on this. How often do your students become your customers in the dress shop?
Occasionally they do. What's interesting is they'll say that they need something repaired really quick and they're not from this area.
Yeah.
They'll message me, "Hey professor, do you think you might be able to help me? I need a pair of pants hemmed or something like that." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Come on over. We're here, happy to help you." My first semester, I had a woman who was of an older generation finishing college. She was working multiple jobs. She had grown children. And I actually did, after the year later, I did do her daughter's wedding. So it's a privilege to be able to do that and to work with people that I meet, through the school.
Any students interested in your industry? See anybody that's talking about doing what?
No, not recently. Most of the students, and it's pretty diverse. I mean, some of them will go to grad school afterwards. Many of them are international students, so they'll wind up traveling back home where families already have businesses in other countries. They'll run those companies. But we're seeing a lot of students going into these Fortune 500 companies, learning the ropes, wanting to work in a corporate environment. But then you do get that handful of entrepreneurs that have had this nagging idea that solves a problem, and they're picking your brain for help with it. And so I do that a lot too. I'm like, "Hey, give me what you got. Let's talk through it. And then you can determine where you need to go with it."
That's great. That's awesome. I love that. One last question for you on this entrepreneurial, educational endeavor of yours. What are some of the most common misconceptions? So somebody walks into your class and they hear, this woman's a dress designer.
Yep.
What do they come at you at that you got to?
It's interesting because, because I'm a female, I think that the way that the perception is a little different sometimes. So as a female walking into a classroom of younger people, it's important to command the respect right away. And one of the things that is, it's a balance for me, because I do see students, some of them are struggling, whether it's academically or personally or whatever. And you have to really walk that fine line of being understanding, but you also have to abide by the syllabus, So if, someone is continually not showing up to class, or, you have to have those tough conversations.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always tell the student, I am always on the side of the student, regardless of the situation. I will always be representing the rights of the student. And if they need help, in any other way, I tell them, set up a time with me. Let's have an office hour. Let's talk through how I can guide you and help you into do better with the class and what you need to do. But many times, it comes down to, I didn't do well on my midterm. My first question is, well, what did you do to prepare? Did you go through the Kahoots that I created for you? Geez, no, I didn't. Well, that was the first step, because I set you up for success. You have to make sure that you're following, what the syllabus states in the order of things. And we also have what's called Blackboard. And so everything that they need to know is right there at their fingertips. And I think sometimes what happens, especially with that generation, you see with my own kids, the more you give them, the more that they don't have to seek knowledge about something, the worse it is sometimes, because they're just used to it being at their fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy to procrastinate until 10 minutes before class and then go on, week 7. Oh, geez, I was supposed to read 5 chapters, or like 10 minutes isn't enough to do that.
Right.
But overall, students, once we get to know each other and once I have my first lecture, the scene is set for the way that the style is going to be and the expectation. And I think they get really excited about it, because what I bring to the classroom is something a little bit different than what other professors maybe bring.
Yeah.
I'm very transparent. I'm very authentic. I'm very real in my experiences that I share with them. And I give them real world examples of everything that we're discussing, whether it's, difficulty for women to secure venture capital.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different in the real world for men versus women? You know what I mean? How is that going to affect them and their endeavors down the line? So these are things that that people don't really talk about and discuss in depth, and it's important that we really give a real world experience to our students, so that leaving education, they don't get out there and they're like a deer in headlights, like, okay, nobody told me this was going to be this hard.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. Marie, I know I said I that was my last question, but I do have one more last question. As an entrepreneur, I'd love a little insight on, I guess we'll call this a little bit of market research. So in the last few years, you've done these projects. Are you seeing a trend in the types of projects? So by that, I mean, is the solution that these students come up with is they all want to build an app, or they all want to build an electric car or something? I don't know. Is there some kind of trend in these things?
So yes, there is. What we are seeing is, with technology, just an AI, really starting to evolve so quickly, we're seeing basic problems being solved by really intricate innovation in technology and artificial intelligence.
Nice.
And artificial intelligence, to me, is going to be one of the most important things for our young people to not just understand, but to be using. And it's really going to be integrated into everything that we do. And it is now.
Sure.
A lot of it is now. I mean, I use AI quite a bit, more so for content, for social media and things like that. But one of the things that I have learned, even just with ChatGPT, let's say, and ChatGPT is going to wind up being like the Pac-Man game, of our past.
Yeah.
So even with the ChatGPT, like I realize it's getting to know me.
Mm-hmm.
My artificial intelligence now, when I go ahead and, I speak into it to get information, even if I miss noting that it's for my bridal business,
Yeah.
it already knows that because
Right.
it's gotten to know me.
Right.
So technology, AI is going to be even more important. I'm starting to see with these projects, app-oriented projects are pretty popular. They're inexpensive to create.
Sure.
But the biggest problem that I see is, with the intellectual property, how are we going to be able to protect our innovations? Are there going to be able to be patents available for, this is all new
Yeah.
space for us. And, that's the one thing is you could be you have the first mover advantage, but quickly behind you is someone else that's developing and could just really just pop right over your head.
Yep.
So these are the challenges that we talk about in our classes.
Wow. That's incredible. We could go on forever, and we will, because these are only the first episodes of this podcast. But Marie, I think we probably got to call it quits, at least for today's adventure. Anything else that folks should know? And then if not, just give us again your websites and socials, things like that.
Well, it was such a pleasure because, being able to share information, not just about me personally and my business, but to be able to talk about entrepreneurship, which was something, in the past that entrepreneurship was never a major in school. So,
Sure.
It was never something that was, highly talked about. It's been a great opportunity to do that and to encourage young people to really look at what they're good at, what their passions are, where they can identify problems and pain points in their lives and other people's lives and solve those problems is amazing. My business is Spy Baby Bridal and Adornato Couture Bridal. We are located at 426 North Franklin Street in Franklin Square, which is a historic area in downtown Syracuse and really easy to get to and conveniently located. And as far as availability goes, all you need to do is make an appointment with us. We are here to style you. We're here to have a really good time in helping you find the perfect dress for a special event. And our website is www.spybaby.com.
That's easy enough. Spybaby.com is where you can find all this fun stuff. Marie, until next time, thank you so much for coming in and letting me host these initial episodes for you.
Thank
It's been
you
a
so
blast.
much. Such a pleasure.
Thanks.